So I'm Cynthia, and I'm the host of the reality series CPS The Horror Stories. I'm not a social worker or an attorney. I'm just a mom who went through CPS with her kids being kidnapped. I did get them back, and now I do this. And
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So, Linda, will you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell me where you're from, what you do, all of that.
My name's Linda Whidden. I'm from Sudbury, Ontario in Canada, and I'm a housewife. I have disabilities, so I stay home and my husband goes to work, and we have 10 grandchildren. And yeah, pretty much I just help out with the kids.
That's a lot in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then let's start. You were mentioning that it goes way back when, so let's start there.
Okay, my mother was an abusive alcoholic. I don't know why, but because my parents weren't married back in the 60s, because my mother was losing custody, and rightfully so, my father had to adopt me through the Children's Aid Society. So that went well. He took very good care of me, and there was really never any issues. My mother did quit drinking later on in life when I became a mother. And then I think she wanted to be a mother rather than a grandmother. So she just started, we lived in the same apartment building, and there was a door joining the two units. So she would just come in and take my kids whenever she wanted. And I tried to explain to her if there was ever a fire or whatever, I need to know where my children are. And she wouldn't go anywhere with it. She just wanted to do her own thing. So I had my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband of 25 years. And we've been together 32 years. I had him nail the door shut so she couldn't come and take my children through the night and bring them into her apartment. So that's what started my second.
But she was doing it through the night?
Pardon?
She was doing it during the night?
Yeah, just to bring them in her apartment. Yeah. And I'd ask her, what are you doing that for? Oh, he woke up crying. See, I have 4 children from a previous marriage. I had one child in 85, and then in 86, they told me I was having triplets. And I thought, oh my goodness, no. And through the whole pregnancy, I took very good care of myself, but I just thought, there's no way, like, I don't know where this comes from. So eventually I did have my triplets. Unfortunately, at 3 months, I did lose one to sudden infant death syndrome. But again, like I said, we lived in the same apartment building that my father owned, and my mother would just help herself to my children whenever she pleased. And because I had my boyfriend put a nail in the door so she couldn't come in, she started calling child protection on me, Children's Aid, Children's Aid. And they'd come and they'd find nothing. And then they'd come again and find nothing. And after a series of visits, they said to me, well, you know what? We're going to get you to sign an 18-month supervision order. And I said, for what reason? And they said, well, just because. I said, no, I'm not signing it. And she says, well, why don't you just sign it? Because that way, when she calls again, then we already know what's going on. So I said, I'm not signing it. So they took me and my boyfriend, who's of course my husband now, they took us to court in order to get an 18-month supervision order. So there was an interim order in place until the final decision was made, and they had access to go into the kids' schools, to go into whatever they want, the family doctor, and that was also a part of their 18-month supervision order. And I told them, I've worked too hard to take care of my children. I'm not signing anything. So again, while we were in the process of going to court, they had the authority to go wherever they pleased to see whatever they wanted. We ended up in court, and by the time it was all said and done, the judge cautioned them to leave us alone. He didn't feel that there was any need for a protection order of any type, and I thought that was the end of it. But unfortunately not. She kept calling and calling, and they kept coming and coming. So finally we had to move. So we moved, and I thought, okay, we're good now. Well, my mother took me to court for grandparent rights. My thought was, my children are never going to see her again. She's nasty. But the judge did agree to give her visitation, so they were allowed to go there every second weekend. In the meantime, what they were doing down there, she was providing alcohol, cigarettes, letting their girlfriends sleep over. And I mean, they're only teenagers, like 12, 13. And then by the time, well, I believe one of the twins now, I believe he was like 17 and his girlfriend became pregnant. Her parents didn't want the child, so they put the child up for an open adoption. And I told my son, I said, you know, I'd really reconsider because we'll help you. Don't do this. So he didn't go ahead with the adoption, and he got his child, and he lived at home with us, and we helped him. But in the meantime, he decided that he'd share custody with the mother, who has a very, very bad drinking problem, drug problem, but we didn't know this back then. So that was going on. They were sharing custody and whatnot. And then her skeletons came out of the closet. And then I seen he started drinking a lot. And I had to tell him, you know, this isn't good. So he basically lost control, and I called the children's aid on him, and they started investigating. Then they started investigating the mom, and then sometimes in the middle of the night, they'd call me, can you please come and get these children? They were at the mother's, and the mother had another son by another fellow afterwards, and the guy didn't stick around. So I had my granddaughter and her little brother, and he called us Nanny and Papa. And we were called several times in the middle of the night to go across town and take the children out of a bad situation. And we did. And finally, they said, you know what? We can't return the children to her. And I said, okay. I said, can they stay with us? And she says, well, you'll have to go through a kinship assessment. And I said, oh, that's not a problem. And then she asked about my involvement with the society. Now, because the judge cautioned them and they never got an actual order, I told them, I don't have a history. I said, you people have a history of harassing me. And she said, okay. And then she came back after and she said, well, we have to take both children from you. I said, well, you had me remove them and now you're taking them from me. I said, where? She goes, they'll have to go into foster care. And I said, well, why can't they stay with us? And she said, well, because you lied about your history with the society. I said, I didn't lie about the history. I said, you people have harassed me for over 30 years here. Come on. She said, well, a kinship worker will be in touch and we'll see how it goes. So we went through the kinship assessment and we were recommended by the worker to have both children, but the society decided they'd track down the father of the little boy. They gave the little boy to him, and my granddaughter ended up with the grandfather who didn't want her in the first place. And I'm like, okay, why? Oh, it's your history. And I told her, you know, I don't even have a criminal record. what is going on here? Oh, no, you lied and whatnot. So I basically lost communication with my granddaughter. I did get visitation, but she grew further away and had a lot of visitation with her mom. She's 15 now. She drinks, and I don't think she's into the drugs. At least she hasn't told me. But she's free to go to her other grandmothers, her mothers, and just run wild. I've never seen her little brother again. And then my oldest son had a child. Now, he should never have had a child because he's a junkie. And he had a child with another girl that's a junkie. But she kept the child. Then she fell off the wagon, left the child with her mother. Her mother's sick, couldn't handle it. So she asked me if I would take the child. I said, certainly. So she told the children's aid, and all of a sudden, no, all of a sudden the child's back with the grandmother, who told the society, look, I cannot take care of him. And because both parents were on drugs, the child had to be weaned off at birth. So he's got some difficulties. They tried more than one foster home, and he was kicked out of every foster home. They never once tried to seek other family for kinship. And I have a daughter with 2 children that does not have any involvement. I have a son and his wife with 2 daughters. They never bothered to ask him. They just did what they pleased. So the grandmother phoned me this summer. She was crying. She said, I can't take it anymore. He's too much for me. So my son and his wife, they said they would take him. So she agreed, and the children's aid got involved, and now they have kinship. But my question is, like, why didn't you do this in the first place? Why didn't you look for other family members? That little boy is 6 years old now, and he doesn't know anything. He's on medication to keep him from being hyper. And the pediatricians told my daughter-in-law that he has the ability to behave. He was just never taught it. You know, when they got him, all he wanted was junk food and to do what he wanted. And I can understand that, because the other grandmother, being ill, she didn't have the strength to keep up with him. But she kept hoping her daughter would straighten up and come home. And the children's aid, I asked her, don't they help you? No, they stop by once in a while. You know, they don't do much. Go get a cookie. So, you know, it's a very flawed system. In the pantry, honey. It's very, very flawed. And, you know, because of the society, they've destroyed so many lives. You know, it's just not right. My husband has a very good job. I don't believe that any working person tax dollars should go towards any of that. You know, I wouldn't be calling the society on my own children if it wasn't for the fact that they needed it. And I'm not going to cover it up. And I told the society that. I said, you know, I've called you with concerns myself. And my son, whose daughter, the 2 grandkids, he met a woman, and she had 3 kids getting ready. They were on the roll for adoption, and they told her, you're not getting your kids back. They had families for them. Okay. So I said, you know, that's nice. He says, well, he goes, they're going to adopt her kids out. I said, oh. Next thing you know, he says, she got her kids back. I said, oh, that's nice. He goes, yeah, they thought I was really good for her, so they returned the children. I said, okay, no offense, but let me get this straight. They didn't think you were good for your own child, but you're good for somebody else's 3? They gave her kids back and closed the file. I mean, they haven't had any issues since, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, did they check the file? Did they know what was going on previous? It just seems to me that they're more concerned with their job. And as long as they have the cases open, their jobs are safe. If they don't have any cases, they don't have a job.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And they attack innocent families. You know, we don't bother people. If we were so bad, why were you calling us in the middle of the night to pick up these children? You know, nobody wanted to go out then. You know, it was the police calling because the children's aid worker didn't want to get up out of bed and go, you know, so the police call on the advice of CAS to pick the kids up. Well, yeah, okay. All these young girls are in bed in the middle of winter at 3 a.m., getting a good night's sleep. And here we are, you know, we're not young, but we got up out of bed and we went across town and got them. And they have the nerve to be concerned with us. You know, I just don't agree. The system is badly flawed. And it's horrible. And it should really be shut down. Have another one. So I don't know. I've just never seen anything so ridiculous. And to be quite honest, when my son took his nephew this summer, I was actually worried. I said, gee, Peter, I said, they'll never go for it. They'll know who you are. They'll know you're my son. But when they went over, they agreed to it. They didn't even really care too much. Why? Because they didn't have a foster home that would keep that child. So we were lucky. But if they would have had foster care to keep him, they wouldn't have looked or even gave us a second thought. And my son also works, so does my daughter-in-law. They're taxpayers, and this is just not right. They are prejudiced, and I have all the proof. I've got my files right from day one. And the worker that used to harass me back then, she knows it. We talk on Facebook all the time, and she says they picked on you. Like they came once and they asked us if they could take the kids to their office. And my husband says, well, would you like one of us to come? Because they could be a lot of work. Oh, we're child care professionals, you know, we don't need any help. So we said, okay, go ahead. Well, they called us back in 2 minutes. Oh, we're going to bring the children home. They're not cooperating. Well, they're swinging around on the chairs. They're playing with the computers, and the worker had no control. That didn't help. The kids get out of the car. Don't worry, guys, we didn't tell them nothing. Well, there was nothing to tell. They scared the kids, and it was just horrible. My other grandson, my daughter's at work today, so she has no involvement. He's 3, but she has no involvement, and the CAS, they know who the family are. They could have contacted somebody. And that's what my son told the kinship worker when she came and started asking about how was your family life. He said, look, he said, let's not beat around the bush. He said, you know about my family life. He goes, and what you have in your records and what I lived, he said, are 2 different stories. He said, so don't come in here pretending you don't know anything, because I know that you checked it out. And she was quiet as a mouse, and she loves them and everything, but that's only because they don't have a foster home that can accommodate him, because he can be a real handful. And they wasted 6 years of that child's life in and out of different foster homes, giving them back to the grandmother, giving them back to the mother with the supervision of the mother, and the mother wasn't well to begin with. I mean, that poor little boy, 6 years old, and he's basically just starting out now because he's in a stable environment. You know, he's with my son and daughter-in-law, and they have 2 daughters, and he has a bedtime. He has his proper meals. When he moved in with them, all he wanted was Cool Whip and junk food. You know, I'm not putting the other grandmother down, because it could be a lot to deal with. And she just didn't, she's got a very serious illness. And they didn't care. They had no place to put him. But when they called me and said, oh, we know where he is, and she has to stop farming off that child, I was afraid. I said, look, I said, you people don't like me. I said, so what? You're going to take him away now and make my son apply for kinship? Oh, no, no, no. And they make it sound like my son and his wife are just perfect. The truth is they had nowhere for him. So they let him stay anywhere. They would have let him stay with me if I'd have offered. It's not right.
No.
So I guess if kids don't want to be in foster care, all they have to do is start smashing the place up and acting up, and they'll kick them out. And eventually they'll get back to family, but it's just not right. And then offering family kinship money. I don't necessarily agree with that. I told them when we were going for kinship, no, like if we want to take on the responsibility, it's our responsibility. Okay, the child tax credit, maybe, but there's no need for the government to start handing out money to take care of your own family. I mean, you get a baby bonus for that. I mean, my husband never could, but you know, I don't know how it would have worked, them not being our biological and just grandchildren, if we could have got it for them. But with my husband's income, if we had children, we wouldn't get it. But we just told them we don't really want the money. And she said, oh, no, you have to take it. So, but we never ended up getting the kinship, even though their own kinship worker recommended, because they'd never been around the other side of the family at all. Those people gave my granddaughter up for adoption, and the Children's Aid gave her right back to the very people that didn't want her in the first place. And to me, that just does not make sense. And they knew that the only place those kids knew were us. Now, the little boy, they found his father, and I understand that that is his father, and it is what it is. And I believe they bashed me because I had a good relationship with him and thought I could see him. And he said, we don't want you around. Don't bother us. And I never bothered to ask them what they said. But I just think the fact that when they took us to court and didn't get their order, they somehow really did not like us anymore. And I believe that that's the reason we didn't get the kinship. And it's just sad. And I believe that that's the reason why they didn't look for anybody in our family to take care of the grandson now that finally got placed with my son. I've only got, even the one, my granddaughter, her dad straightened up. And like I said, he's with a woman with 3 kids, and they've had another one since then. But the society didn't think he was good for his own daughter, but he's good for somebody else's 3. Yeah, it's just very mixed up, and it's not right. I've heard of people committing suicide over losing their children. And I mean, my God, but there's my son and his girlfriend. They know that the child is no longer with the other grandmother. They don't care. They're not straightening up. They know where he is too. They don't call my son and ask for a visit, even though they're denied visits because they're not allowed any access. And we'll follow the rules of the society because it's in the child's best interest. But I don't believe that the Children's Aid Society have any interest of children. It's all about the paycheck. And nobody can change my mind on that. I got one in the fridge.
I was just thinking how bad CPS has wronged you.
They have, and they can't change it, like I've often said to my husband, I'm going to sue them. And you know what? Really, it's not worth my time. I just want to get my frustration out. It's just they've destroyed so much good in my home, in my family, when there was no need for it.
Right.
But they seen that they could keep some cases open. So.
I hear him.
I just feel that I've been wronged very badly.
Absolutely.
And the government's money was wasted because there was no need for all of it.
So, question, where are all of the grandkids now?
Well, my son that lost his daughter, he's with the woman with the 3 kids, and they have another one, and his daughter, and she's now 15, she goes between his place and the grandmother's. I believe the mother is having more issues again with a new boyfriend, and it's very sad because she's just got a problem where she has that one too many drinks, and I can understand now why her mother had concerns of her becoming a mother, because I mean, one day she just came out of the room with no clothes on and sat on my husband's lap. So she just drinks to the point where she doesn't know what she's doing.
How old is she?
So she's probably, yeah, she's 34. So she's lost her children again. Because she had like another child with another guy. So she's got 3 kids with 3 different men. But my granddaughter, like I said, she's with my son, and he's cleaned up his act, even though, you know, the whole thing wasn't right. But he has cleaned up his act. The little boy, he's with his father. My daughter, she's never had any visits, and she even was afraid. She says, like, if I go for that kinship, because she was going to call once and ask about it. She goes, but I'm so afraid. She goes, what if they start poking around? I said, but you don't have anything to hide. And she goes, I don't care. She goes, I know they don't like you, Mom.
Yeah.
So she's married. Her and her husband, they work. They got 2 kids. And my son that has my 6-year-old grandson, he's got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and they're coming along nicely, and hopefully they can adopt the little guy through the society after a year, so we're told. But I just couldn't get over how easy they let the little guy stay with them before even meeting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just makes no sense. And when they told me that we couldn't keep the kids before because they had to do the assessment first. After the assessment, then they'll think about it. But it's all lies because, like I said, they left that little guy with my son, went and visit, said, yeah, okay. But if they had a foster home that would keep him, he wouldn't be with my son. That much I do know.
Right. Wow. Well, I'm sad. Like, it makes me sad for all that you've been through and that you've been.
Well, what I've went through as a child, I was traumatized by my mother's drinking. I had very bad anxiety. I chewed my fingernails up until Facebook came out. I chewed my fingernails till they'd bleed because of my anxiety as a child. And thank God for my father because he saved my life. But I still had the anxiety from her drinking and her fighting and her abuse. And I swore when I have kids, I'm never treating them that way. And I did everything in my power because, like, I was married at 19 and had my 1 child, and then I had the triplets. And that guy ended up being on dope and a criminal. So I left him right away. And I went out with this fellow that really, really liked me 2 years earlier, but I didn't like him. I ended up back with him, and he raised my children. And my boys look at him as dad. They don't even look at their natural father as a father. In fact, the oldest does dope with him, or he was, and then beats him up, and he doesn't even like his own father. And he ended up getting remarried and had 2 kids, and they're older, and you know, he's not with her. He's in a wheelchair because he crippled himself from some infection doing needles, and his wife's not with him. So my son, he's a construction worker. He told his little brother from that marriage, he said, you better come and work with me. He said, because obviously you weren't raised by a man. He said, so I'll take you to work with me. And he got his little brother from the other marriage a job.
Wow.
But other than that, I mean, hopefully I never have to deal with them again. Like, I'm still nervous for my son. Like, what are they going to do when my grandson starts behaving again? Take him away? And, you know, I just don't know. He never should have been left with the grandmother. She told them, I have a serious illness. I can't keep up with them. And,
what was
you know,
the
it just, pardon?
What was the illness, and how old was the grandson?
She has MS.
Oh.
That's the 6-year-old.
Yeah.
That is ADHD apparently, because, I mean, they did have to wean him off right away the minute he was born because of my son and the mother's drug use. And I just felt that they've wasted 6 years of his life when he could have been with my son and daughter-in-law. There's no time for that. I mean, I understand that they give people some time and, you know, okay, maybe we'll give you your kids back. And if people get their kids back, right on. But if they're not fit to, I don't believe that they should start, oh, well, we'll place them over here, or we'll try this, or we'll try that. They know who my son is. He's been charged with kidnapping, actually. He went to the society when they first apprehended him and had a visit and walked out the building with him. So he's not allowed any access at all, and I'm fine with that because he's not interested in his son, so I'm not interested, you know,
Right.
I'm not interested in dope. So it's just a very, very flawed system and a big waste of tax-paying dollars, and it's just not run properly. Taking people's kids away on hearsay. If they hear, like I said to her, I said, what? When she wanted the supervision order, I said, what exactly did we do? She says, well, she says, what it is if we get so many calls, then we just want a supervision order because we have concerns at that point. I said, but what? I said, check the police. Well, no, it's just if people are calling, then, you know, we have to have, you know, some supervision. And I wouldn't agree to it. And my mother told them that we were smoking pot. My mother told them that we were on dope and everything, and I don't even smoke pot. So my boyfriend and I at the time, well, he's my husband now, we went to our family doctor and got drug tests, and they brought that to court, our lawyer. And then the society's lawyer right away, oh, is that blood or urine? And urine. Our lawyer said both.
Oh.
It was both. We got our blood and urine checked, not a trace. And the judge said, I don't want to hear about this anymore. He said, I am cautioning you to please leave this family alone. He said, because it can end up in other areas and it won't be good. But yet there are no other areas because they harassed me still. And they took the advice of my mother, who they know fully well because they knew I was adopted through the society because of mother's drinking. They should have gave me a chance. I think they label people. Oh, yeah, she's an alcoholic, so the daughter must be.
They do label people.
You know? Oh, they certainly do. Like I said, my son would not have my grandson right now for kinship if they had another home that would take him. But he can be he can be a handful. So unless you're blood related to this little guy, I could see people getting frustrated with him. So they really wasted too much time not reaching out to us. And because they didn't reach out to us, who knows where this little guy's going to end up. We're going to get him on the right path. My son and his wife, you know, we're a strong family. We're keeping the other grandmother in the loop. She's not losing any visitation because, like I said, I wouldn't want it done to me. So I don't expect it done to her, you know.
Yeah.
I don't cover things up either.
Wow.
But once, I think they label people and that's it and that's all. And once they don't like you, they don't like you. And I picked up on that real quick. But like I said, the other family didn't want my granddaughter. We invested our time and everything for her and her little brother. And then when things went wrong, all of a sudden, they give her right back to the people that gave her up in the first place. Why? Because the dirty diapers stage is over? You know, it's disgusting. It's heartbreaking that
Yeah.
can't change the past, and you know.
Right.
You know, the other grandmother, my granddaughter's grandmother, well, you know, she's almost retired and her ex-husband is retired, and you know, they have all this money to go on holidays, so they take my granddaughter to the States before COVID and everything, of course, and you know, they do all kinds of things. So I don't know, we just lost big time. And they just stepped in and did what they wanted, and they no regard for anybody's feelings, no regard for the children, because if they'd have looked into it, they'd have seen where those children should have been.
It is about money.
Oh, it is. And they pick on people, and they like the weak and they don't like the strong. Once you start talking back to them and not agreeing, once you don't want to agree with one thing, oh, all of a sudden, then they start with the drama and, oh yeah, I seen that one's violent and this one's violent. Like, give it up. Come on now. And they use everything you say against you.
Yeah.
I mean, the worker came to bring papers. My mother was saying how my husband, boyfriend at the time, like I said, we've been married 25 years, been together for 32, and I'm still alive and well, and we're very much in love. But my mom was saying how he was beating up my 3 children from the previous marriage because she was hoping to get my kids. So she's telling them they're getting beat up and da 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 da. So when they brought papers to my door one day, because we weren't living together at the time, he was there, and she brought the papers to me, and she goes, "Oh, is Ken here?" She goes, "I see his truck." She goes, "Can I leave his papers here?" I said, "Go ahead and deliver his papers at his house, not here." And she goes, "Well, he's here. Don't be so childish." So I was fed up. I was being sarcastic. I said, "You know what?" I said, "I'll tell you what." I went in through the living room and I said, "Come and get your papers, you child-beaten bastard." Because I thought, they're not going to go away, so I might as well humor myself. Well, that didn't work. They brought that up in court. They said, "You admitted that he beat your kids up." I said, "No." And then when they heard what I had to say, everybody burst out laughing, including the judge. And he goes, "What did you want her to say? Come on in, have a coffee, I'll have an order." "Yes." He goes, "I don't even want to hear it." They said, well, why did you say it? I said, look, I said, they weren't going to leave me alone. I said, so I thought I'd humor myself rather than get upset. And like I said, we're still together. We're still happily married. We're not getting a divorce anytime soon.
Yeah.
And we're still a strong family as long as, you know, the oldest, he's not welcome because we're not into that lifestyle. And I feel like he might rob us. Like, you got to watch everywhere he walks. So it's unfortunate. I've learned to deal with it. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I hope one day he can get some help. But right now, his little guy is the main priority.
Right.
And he's in a good home. And this medication that they've got him on for ADHD. And then the children's aide told my daughter-in-law that he's in a special program at the school he was at. Well, he's changed schools since he's been with my daughter-in-law and son. So she registers him from school and then finds out they don't even offer the program. Then the children's aide said, oh no, we straightened that out. They have it now. Turns out he's not even in a special class. He's in a split 1 and 2. And he's supposed to be ADHD. I mean, they don't have him in a special class. Maybe he doesn't even need it for all we know. I just think that they just label people, and it's nothing more than a number and a case file and a paycheck, of course.
Right.
I mean, think about it, really. If they had all these people that weren't moving and they didn't have any cases, there'd be no jobs for them. And there is a need for child protection, but not this way, not taking them from innocent people.
Yeah. Well.
And they just walk in, and then, of course, you know, it's horrible.
Right.
I hope that one day, before the day I pass, that they have something new.
Somebody asked, did they take the little boy when he was born? How old was he when he was born?
Pardon me? How old was
the boy? When
my grandson?
Yes.
How old was who? My grandson, he's 6 years old.
How old was he when CPS got involved?
Oh, right away, because he was a dope baby. They had to wean him off right away, right the minute he was born. He started withdrawing. They got involved. One moment. They got involved right away. Then the mother straightened up. Then she fell off the wagon. Then my son straightened up, and I even had him living with me at my house. And I was agreeing with the children's aide that I would supervise. And I tried helping my son. And then he just decided to up and leave with the little guy one day and go home. And children's aide went over and took the little guy, put him in foster care. No homes would take him. So they put him back with grandma, the one with MS that told them she couldn't handle him in the first place. And she'd call me crying. She didn't want him in care, you know?
Right. Well, Linda, I'm thankful that you shared your story. It's sad. It's annoying when CPS does this stuff, but if it wasn't for people like you, we wouldn't have people going after them in a way like this, you know? So thank you for having the mouth that goes after people. I appreciate it.
I tell them right straight to their face, and it doesn't bother me because I know the truth. Yep. And they don't like the truth.
Right. Well, again, thank you so much. And I hope you have an amazing day.
Well, thanks for having the conversation.
Yep.
You
All right.
too.
Bye.